Alright, listen up folks. If you've ever jumped into SpongeBob Tower Defense, you know the game doesn't exactly hold your hand. No tooltips, barely any explanations. You're basically thrown into Bikini Bottom with a bunch of towers and expected to figure things out yourself. But don't worry, that's where we come in. Today we're diving deep into traits, what they do, which ones are the best, and how to re-roll like a pro. So, if you've ever wondered, should I keep this trait or re-roll for something better? You're in the right place. We've put together the definitive SpongeBob TD traits tier list, so you don't have to waste your precious jellyfish jelly on bad rolls. Stick around, and let's make sure your towers are as OP as possible. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking traits in SpongeBob Tower Defense. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. The traits in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: Wealth, Surge 1, Reach 1, Strike 1, Scholar, and Scurvy. Alright, let's dive into some of the more questionable traits in SpongeBob Tower Defense. You know, the ones that make you scratch your head and wonder, why would I ever choose this? But hey, we've all been there, picking a trait with big hopes only to be let down. Let's take a closer look at some of these C-tier traits and see why they don't exactly make the cut. First up, we've got Wealth. Now this one sounds great in theory. 25% cheaper unit upgrades. Who doesn't love saving a few extra bucks, right? But here's the kicker. It's pretty much useless in the long run. Sure, it can help out in the story stages where you don't need to worry too much about endless runs, but when the going gets tough in endless mode, yeah, Wealth starts feeling like a major letdown. Don't get too excited about the savings, folks. It's one of the worst traits in the game. Next, we've got Surge 1. This trait reduces the SPA by 5%, which means your units attack just a tiny bit faster. Sounds like a solid win, right? Well, it's definitely useful for utility or slow units that benefit from faster attacks. But here's the catch, it's still not that great. There are other traits out there, like Vortex, that really shine when it comes to reducing SPA. If you're after a trait that'll actually make a big impact, Surge 1 isn't quite it. Now, let's talk about Reach 1. It gives your units a plus 5% RNG boost, so their attacks can reach a bit farther. On winding, narrow maps, this can actually be kind of nice, giving you more flexibility to hit enemies from a distance. But let's be real, SPA is just a better stat. If you're looking for a trait that'll give your units a real edge in combat, Reach 1 falls short. Still, it's not the worst thing to have in the right situation. Strike 1 is a little better, boosting DMG by 5%. Okay, so we're getting somewhere, right? Stronger attacks, still good. But it's not as great as it seems. The value of DMG just doesn't match up to RNG and SPA. You'd think 5% extra damage would be a game changer, but it's more of a minor bump. You could do a lot better with traits that directly affect the way your units attack or their range. Now let's talk about Scholar. This trait increases XP gain by 50%, so your units level up faster. Sounds good, right? You get to power up your units quicker. But here's the issue. Leveling up doesn't really do much for your units in the grand scheme of things. Stat-wise, they don't get enough of a boost from leveling to make a real difference in their performance. Plus, it doesn't apply to food items, so you're kind of stuck with a trait that's only helpful in certain situations. Not exactly a game changer. And then there's Scurvy. Oh boy, where do I even start? This one is a disaster. It gives your unit 50% DMG plus 100% SPA and 75% RNG. It's basically a curse in trait form. Everything gets worse. Damage, range, you name it. The only thing it gives you is faster attacks, but that doesn't really help when your unit's not doing enough damage or hitting anything. Scurvy is a reroll waiting to happen. So, there you have it, folks. These C-tier traits are definitely ones you'll want to avoid or toss aside when you're building your dream team in SpongeBob Tower Defense. They might seem tempting at first, but trust me, when you're deep into the game, you'll realize that there are far better options out there. Remember, folks, when it comes to traits, don't settle for less. Choose wisely, and your units will thank you later. Catch you in the next one. The traits in this tier are in order from top left to bottom right: Surge 2, Reach 3, Strike 3, Reach 2, and Strike 2. Alright, let's talk about some traits in SpongeBob Tower Defense that can really shake up how your units perform. These traits are super important when you want to fine-tune your strategy and make sure you're squeezing out every last drop of potential from your team. Let's dive into some of the B-tier traits, starting with Surge 2. First up, Surge 2. This trait gives your unit a sweet 15% SPA, meaning they attack faster. Now, we all know SPA is a huge deal, right? Faster attacks mean more damage over time, and when you're dealing with slower utility-based units, this can make all the difference. The only thing to keep in mind is that you'll have to balance it out with your other traits because, let's face it, having a Vortex trait would be the dream combo here to maximize the impact. But if you're already rocking some slow units, Surge 2 can be a total game changer. Next, let's talk about Reach 3. This trait boosts your range by plus 25%, so your units can hit targets from further away. It's pretty awesome, especially if you're dealing with maps that twist and turn, like some of those winding road maps. The extra reach allows you to hit enemies before they get too close. But here's the thing, SPA tends to be more valuable in the long run for most units. So, while Reach 3 is great for certain situations, you'll often find yourself leaning towards other traits for more consistent performance. Then, we've got Strike 3. This one gives plus 25% DMG, making your attacks stronger. It's a solid trait and definitely better than things like Wealth and Scholar, which we'll get into some other time. However, DMG is kind of the meh stat compared to Reach and SPA. Yes, it's nice to hit harder, but when your attacks are too slow or your range is limited, that extra damage doesn't always help as much as you'd like it to. It's solid, but has some competition when you're thinking long-term. Now, Reach 2, which offers a plus 15% RNG boost, is a step down from Reach 3, but it's still nothing to scoff at. That extra reach can still give you the upper hand on winding maps, helping you land hits on enemies from afar. But as we saw with Reach 3, you might want to prioritize SPA over RNG, since that faster attack speed can often make a bigger impact on the battlefield. Still, if you're dealing with a lot of winding paths, this trait's value can really shine. Finally, we've got Strike 2, which gives you a plus 15% boost to DMG, just like Strike 3 but a little less punchy. While this trait is definitely better than Wealth and Scholar, it still falls behind Reach and SPA when it comes to pure utility. The extra damage might seem tempting, but on units that aren't built to maximize their damage potential, this trait can feel a little underwhelming. Sometimes it's better to focus on traits that make your units faster or give them better range. And there you have it. These B-tier traits are solid, but they're not the showstoppers. If you want to really maximize your strategy, you'll want to think carefully about how they stack up against other traits. But hey, when used right, they can still make a big difference. The traits in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Sidekick, Vortex, Sea Bear, Pursuit, and Surge. 3. Alright folks, let's dive into some of the coolest traits in SpongeBob Tower Defense that can totally change the way you play. Whether you're all about that high DPS, or you prefer having a little extra strategy in your back pocket, these traits are here to spice things up. Let's talk about the A-tier traits, because if you're not using these, you might be missing out on some seriously powerful synergies. First up, we've got Sidekick. Imagine you're placing down your units, and boom, you get one extra spot to place another unit. That's right, one more unit, just like that. It's a game changer, especially for those slow units that need all the support they can get. Need a tanky unit or some extra firepower on the field? Sidekick's got your back. It's a real treat for those slower units that otherwise might struggle to get all their damage in. Though, just a heads up, if you're looking for pure DPS increase, Secret Formula might edge out Sidekick in some cases, but it's still a solid pick. Next up, let's talk about Vortex, which is basically a game changer for units that need to hit fast and hard. With Vortex, you get a massive 50% SPA, that's seconds per attack for the uninitiated, meaning your units will be attacking way faster than before. And let me tell you, if you're running a DPS, or even some of those slow units that need to stack up their damage quickly, Vortex is a dream come true. You'll be shredding through waves in no time. This trait is definitely one of the best in the game. Now, let's move on to Sea Bear, and this one is wild. Sea Bear boosts your damage by a whopping 150%, and while it does slow down your attack speed and reduces your range by 40%, the raw damage increase can't be ignored. If you're playing around with single-target DPS units, this trait will make them a serious powerhouse. But, and it's a big but, this trait isn't great for support units or full AoE units, who rely on more consistent coverage. So, use it wisely. Pursuit is another trait that can totally flip the script for your ranged units. It gives you a plus 35% range increase, meaning your units will be able to hit enemies from much farther away. The best part? This is a pretty common trait, so you can expect to see it pretty often in your loadout. This is particularly amazing for line units or AoE units who need that extra distance to really make their attacks count. However, it's not as useful for slow units who don't need to reach far to begin with, so keep that in mind. Then there's Surge 3, which is essentially a slightly less intense version of Vortex. It gives your unit a 25% SPA, meaning they attack faster. It's a handy trait for all those slow utility units you might be using, as it speeds up their rate of fire and helps them contribute more in the heat of the battle. It's like giving your slower units a shot of espresso. That said, if you've got a unit that could really benefit from a major speed boost, Vortex would be a better choice, but Surge 3 still does the trick. What's really fun about these traits is how they can complement each other in ways you might not expect. For example, you could pair Sidekick with a unit that already has a lot of DPS potential and watch them go to town. Or if you're feeling really spicy, slap Vortex on a unit that's already fast, and you've got yourself a machine gun of destruction. The synergy possibilities are endless. So, what's the takeaway here? Well, A-tier traits are all about fine-tuning your strategy, whether you're boosting damage, improving speed, or extending your range. These traits give you the flexibility to tailor your units for different challenges. Sure, there are traits that might be a little more niche, but when you get these A-tier traits working together, that's when the magic happens. And that's a wrap. With all these traits in your arsenal, you'll be ready to take on whatever the game throws at you. Make sure to experiment with them and find the combos that suit your playstyle the best. What do you think? Which of these traits do you love the most? Let me know down in the comments. The traits in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Neptune Crown, Secret Formula, and Jellyfish Jam. Let's talk about some of the absolute game changers in SpongeBob Tower Defense. Those traits that completely take your strategy to the next level. If you're a fan of optimizing your units and making them absolutely unstoppable, then you've come to the right place. First up, we have the Neptune Crown trait. Now this one is a big deal, my friends. It's going to unlock a second trait slot for your unit, allowing them to wield 2 traits instead of just 1. And the best part? It's permanent. So no need to worry about it disappearing. What makes this trait even more amazing is that it applies 2 random traits, no duplicates though, making your unit even more versatile. If you want your units to truly shine and be the powerhouse of your squad, Neptune Crown is a must-have. Now, let's dive into the Secret Formula trait. This one might just be the most overpowered DPS trait in the game, hands down. When you equip this trait, you're looking at a massive plus 50% damage boost. But wait, there's a twist. The trade-off is a 50% SPA, speed per attack, so you'll be attacking slower, but trust me, the damage makes up for it. It's like giving your unit a power boost while sacrificing speed. Definitely worth it when you need to dish out some serious damage. And if you're all about raw DPS, this is your golden ticket. Moving on to Jellyfish Jam. If you've ever felt the need to make your team's speed just a little bit faster, this trait is your best friend. With Jellyfish Jam, it reduces other units' SPA by 25%, but here's the kicker, it doesn't stack. So you'll want to place this on your starter units, or the ones that can cover a large range, ensuring your entire team gets a sweet little speed buff. It's an extremely good support trait, and it's going to make your strategy flow like a well-oiled machine. The beauty of these traits lies in how they complement each other. Imagine equipping a unit with Neptune Crown to unlock that second trait slot, and then giving them Secret Formula for insane damage output. Now add Jellyfish Jam into the mix, and suddenly, you have a team that's not only dealing heavy damage, but also attacking faster than ever. The synergy is real, and if you play your cards right, you'll be dominating the battlefield in no time. And let's not forget that all of these traits are pretty flexible depending on your playstyle. Want to be a tanky powerhouse? Or do you prefer fast, hit-and-run strategies? These traits allow you to craft your team just the way you want it. It's all about experimenting and finding what works best for you. Because when it comes to SpongeBob Tower Defense, there's no one-size-fits-all strategy. So there you have it. The Neptune Crown, Secret Formula, and Jellyfish Jam traits are all absolute must-haves in your loadout if you're aiming for victory. Whether you're boosting your unit's traits, dealing massive damage, or supporting your squad with some speed, these traits will help you create the ultimate team. Give them a try and watch your game reach new heights. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.